Welcome to the WOD Pod. Join me as I sit down with CrossFitters, fitness experts, top coaches, professional athletes, and other well-known gym goers to listen to their journey through fitness. Joe Fishburn faced the unimaginable loss of his mum at the age of 2, and he's turned adversity into fuel.
When I was 2, unfortunately I lost my mum, and my dad wasn't in the picture. I had an amazing grandma and family kind of unit that supported my grandma as well, and she took responsibility for me. I definitely used my grief in childhood across different parts of my life, but I think other people can learn from that, and they can maybe take some comfort in, okay, so bad things can happen to you, and it might be 10 years before you actually come to acknowledge that and realise that.
You may know Joe from Gladiators Series 2 and the Gladiators Live Tour. But beyond the arena, he's coaching people through fat loss, confidence, and mental resilience. This episode covers top-level gymnastics, grief, purpose, and what it really takes to rebuild yourself and come back stronger. Right, Joey, welcome to the WOD Pod, Series 4, Episode 6. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Lovely little setup you've got going on.
Thanks very much. Quick shout out to sponsors. So we've got WOD Powders, full supplement range. Don't know if you've heard of them, tried any products. I've got you a few products to take away, so give me some feedback after the episode. OnYa merch, so they are a online merch store. They're moving into like a fitness app, but they do merch for like gyms, businesses, like really low volumes, kind of like print to order. So I think I might have some stuff. If not, I'll get some ordered. But we've done like a WOD Pod sleeveless tee, which is really cool, just for training in. And then Tenzing. So Tenzing are our drink sponsor. So feel free to crack a can now.
Is this
yeah, you can go.
What they've missed is I missed the promo shot where I was meant to open it on camera. Sounds like you're spoiling me today.
Try and spoil all the podcast guests, to be fair.
It's nice, that.
It is the pineapple passion fruit.
It's good.
Cool. So let's start with sport. What did you do sport-wise, early age, childhood, school, stuff like that?
So by trade, and for people watching, I would describe myself as a gymnast. When I was in school and growing up, something that I think is really important and I kind of advocate for is I think you should do all the sports you can. Children nowadays, and I see it now because I run gymnastics clubs, they'll get hooked on one thing and they won't kind of, I feel like, explore outside of that. Now, I was fortunate enough to do gymnastics and rugby alongside each other to quite a high standard. And obviously, I mean, I was thrown in the school football team as well, was never really very good at that. I think I was just in there to make a nuisance of myself. I was doing athletics and everything, and I think you should just do absolutely everything and anything when you're young, and then kind of go into a more specialised approach as you get older.
To be fair, I did gymnastics as a kid. And I stopped it when I got to probably year 4, maybe. I think at that point it was gymnastics or rugby, and it was cool to do rugby. So naturally, team sport, not as individual. So yeah, went down the rugby route. But I found doing gymnastics at an early age gave me such good like hand-eye coordination with all sports, balance, just like mobility, stuff like that loads of other people don't have. So I feel like it does set you up for pretty much any sport doing gymnastics.
Absolutely. And I mean, probably what you missed out saying was that you weren't going to get bullied if you picked rugby. Whereas like obviously gymnastics is just the most, when you're that age, it's a really, really challenging thing to go through. And it's been cool to see almost a change in that already from when I was younger and grown up. I was about
to say, nowadays, gymnastics is, it's kind of like almost cool to do. Like you can backflip. Like, I don't know. I feel like I think it's definitely improved with the likes of the male gymnast influencers, Olympics, like top sport. I think it's very much seen as another sport amongst rugby, football, cricket.
Yeah, it's definitely got better. And I think it's interesting that we've both done the same sports growing up. And I was experiencing like, why are you doing a girls' sport? Lots of like kind of homophobic comments, if you want, as well, towards myself. And then, like you say, as soon as you can do a backflip, That is like the ultimate party trick. That is, everyone thinks you're cool if you can do a backflip. But obviously when you're in year 2 and 3, 4, getting on there, I mean, I was terrible. I say that openly, I was really bad when I was young. And it's interesting that my approach is, so I don't want people to be specializing really early. I mean, if you want to aim for the Olympics and you want to be the best, you're going to have to. But I like the idea of gymnasts still enjoying the sport in their teenage years, which is kind of the only reason I think I was successful as I got older. So I'm very biased to do everything. You've still got time to kind of make it as you get a little bit older.
Yeah. How did you discover gymnastics?
So we'll probably have to go into actually kind of my childhood and my growing up for there. So when I was 2, unfortunately, I lost my mum and my dad wasn't in the picture. I had an amazing grandma and family kind of unit that supported my grandma as well. And she took responsibility for me from the age of 2. So in that kind of moment, I obviously didn't recall what was going on. I don't know if you can recall anything from when you're 2.
I can't recall anything from like last week. So, but no, I know what you mean. What age did you start processing it then? Or do you not know?
It's a really tough one because I always say when I was younger, there was I was normal and life kind of seems normal. And then there'd be a very standout moment where you suddenly had a bit of a sinking feel and you realized that your childhood was different or your upbringing looked different. Like the one I always use is when we were going away to a gymnastics competition and maybe my grandma couldn't travel to watch me compete. So there'd be other parents cheering me on, which was lovely and supporting me. Or maybe when we were playing rugby and you'd be down on the sidelines while playing and there'd be parents on the sidelines and you'd maybe make a good pass, a good tackle or score a try and you kind of looked over and that's where you'd maybe have a father figure going like, that's my boy.
Yeah.
And all the other dads used to kind of cheer me on, which was lovely because obviously my grandma can't come and stand at the side of the rugby pitch for 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Because of various health issues and what have you. But I feel like I've gone around the world there to answer your question.
Yeah,
She took me to a gymnastics club called Scarborough Gymnastics, which was in a sports hall. And basically because I had too much energy. And she sent me there kind of 1 hour a week initially.
That was some steam.
Yeah, that was some steam. I remember, and when I go throughout the schools and I'm talking to them and the children and I'm kind of trying to inspire them, if you like, and share my story, I always give the example of a story she told me where I climbed onto the cooker and I jumped off the cooker when I was young. And she must have like walked in the kitchen and I was jumping off the cooker kind of thing. And I think, I mean, if you were a girl, you wouldn't be doing that, would you? That's definitely a young boy thing. That's like,
yeah. Already performing stunts. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of setting you up for sending you to a gymnastics club at that point.
I think it's just a lack of development, isn't it? And boys are a bit crazy.
So, okay, going back to the gymnastics. How long had you done it for before you started to take it seriously in terms of elite level? So
this is going to come as a bit of a surprise, people listening. And I openly say this and I genuinely mean it. When I was younger, I was really, really not talented. It didn't come naturally to me at all. And I'm on the fence with this because I've seen lots of different sides. I've seen people who are really talented at a young age go and do great things and be incredible. I've seen them, they get really good at something really quickly and then they lose interest and hop between things. And it was a real slow burner. I really enjoyed my gymnastics. When I'd had a bad session, I could go and play rugby. When I'd had a bad rugby match, I could go and do gymnastics.
Yeah.
And I just kind of stuck at it. I remember I was always one of the oldest in my group. Sometimes you're not going to be in a group where there's 5 lads the same age. So there was times where I did feel like stopping. I felt like I was older than everyone else. Maybe I couldn't compete because of that. But I eventually got into like a competitive group. And again, I remember feeling not the best. I remember struggling. But I found a few things and I realized I might not be able to outwork the boys or the lads doing the big skills. Because obviously gymnastics is essentially different pieces of apparatus. We do a discipline called team gym, which is like trampet, tumble, trampet vault and floor. So a bit different. One of the kind of smaller disciplines of gymnastics. But I realized that the areas the other lads didn't like, I could excel in. So they'd be doing bigger skills than me.
Yeah.
But I realized that when it came to the conditioning or the fitness, I could outwork them because I could work on that at home. And then the floor, in what we do, you have to be quite dynamic, you have to be able to dance. And again, isn't quite the usual thing for a young boy or young man to do. So I realized if I really exerted myself on the floor into choreography and stuff, people would be like, oh, he's really good on there. So yeah, it was a real journey of kind of lots of setbacks, but my grandma and myself was just like, right, stick at it, you enjoy it, kind of don't give up.
I feel like the secret is also, if you're enjoying it, you're probably going to keep going. You see a lot of, I had a podcast guest on who's gone into long drive, and he was playing basically professional golf, got signed at the age of 14, 15. He did golf his whole life, started playing golf when he was 7, and he was playing golf that much, maybe with this, a bit of pressure to get to. I mean, his goal was to be a pro golfer, and he'd done it from the age of 7 through to about 15, 16, where he just said, I'm done. Like, I've played that much golf, I do that much training. He's training every day for golf, and he just got to the point where he just was like, I'm kind of not enjoying it. I'm now doing it to pursue a career. The fun's gone. The enjoyment's gone. Never played golf since. I mean, now he plays golf for fun and he does long drive now professionally. But going back to your point of, because you were enjoying it and you were seeing it as, I've been playing a bit too much rugby, let's go do some gymnastics. Potentially because it was fun and you enjoyed it, you kept going. So you do see the flip side. So yeah, that's probably to your argument of, you can still pursue a top level or top standard later on in your teens. That's probably where that comes in. These podcasts are sponsored by WOD Powders, who now sell their clear whey protein in both tubs and travel sachets. If you've tried those thick protein shakes after a workout, this is your new upgrade. The WOD Powders clear whey is light, refreshing, and causes no digestive issues. Ideal for after a WOD, perfect for on hot days training, and packed with the protein you need to recover. Order yours today with code TOM15 for a 15% discount from wodpowders.co.uk. All right, back to the pod. How old were you then when you got to, Team GB level? And what was that journey like? What was the process to get onto Team GB?
Oh, well, my first Team GB competition where I got selected, everything, was when I was 17. Which actually isn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And this is what I always kind of preach. If I'd have given up before I'd got to those ages, and there was many, many times, as I'll tell you in a second, I wouldn't be kind of half the person I am today. And a lot of my success came as I really matured into my body, into my age, and started to really kind of push through those times where there's a lot of other distractions, a lot of other interests and better things kind of in people's opinion to be doing. When your friends start going out, drinking comes into the picture. You see some of the best athletes when they were younger kind of either fall into that or really start to enjoy it, which isn't a bad thing. But in terms of if you want success in sport, it definitely hinders that. Now, before that competition, there was kind of our Europeans, which is the biggest competition you can do in what we do, happens every 2 years. So you imagine you've got quite a long time until the next one. There was a selection event 2 years before, and I was not good enough, but the coach was kind of like, hopefully by the time we get there, he'll be able to do the skills because these have like requirements and stuff. And I ended up kind of breaking my ankle, my leg, the growth plate at the bottom of the tib and fib. It's a bit of a funny story. I kind of did that, and it's always doing something silly. It was like a simple skill, and I just rolled my ankle, and then kind of hopped around and went to the hospital the next day, and they sent me out with a sprained ankle. And I got the call 2 days later when whoever checked the X-ray saying, "Oh, you've broken the bottom of your leg," and obviously everyone's telling me, "Oh, you've only got a sprained ankle." And for the record, spraining your ankle hurts a lot more than breaking. But I kind of missed out on that because of that. And as I was recovering, the event happened, and then if you were really, really good, they'd know who you are, they'd get you in, and I wasn't there. And I sat at home and I watched two of my friends go and compete for Team GB, and I was so happy for them. I was so proud, genuinely, but I was so kind of emotional and sad because I was a little bit jealous. That's fair to say. I really wanted to do that. They had a great time. It looked amazing. And then I thought, right, I'm going to do this. I want to get selected. I want to get picked. So went back into training. After I had the injury, I had this weird mindset, which I wouldn't kind of advocate for too much. But I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I've been injured. I'm going to really throw myself at what I'm doing now and just see where it ends up. Lots of training, lots of camps, blah, blah, blah. Standard was better. Still so many other people better than me. But I tried to be the most coachable person. I tried to work on the things that I was good at while also showing improvement in the things that I'm not good at. And I just always had that. And a rugby coach drilled into me from a really kind of young age. If you're the person that they want to work with and be the most coachable person, you'll go a long way. And I see it now. The people that are just coachable, I love working with. I see it on the flip side as a coach. Went to my first competition, best experience of my life. We have kind of two formats, a bit similar to other competitions. You have a qualification and a final. We did the qualification. Now, went well. You can imagine, I've never been in front of a couple of thousand people. I've never been to this competition before. We were very inexperienced as a team doing this, so it was all new. And we went out in the final, and there was lots of mistakes in the team, and I fell over in the European final on the tumble. And rule number one of gymnastics, no matter who you are watching, you'll know, don't fall over. It's not good. Really not good.
Yep.
Lots of us made mistakes, and the team ended up coming fourth, which was, again, in hindsight, exactly what we deserved. Exactly what we weren't good enough, but we were kind of on a bad day for the other team. We could have got a medal, but we weren't good enough. So fate played its course, and that was fair. And I remember before we went out there, now you might be able to give some input to if you've ever felt like this. I stood at the entrance ready to run out into this hall. My adrenaline was through the roof, and I'd never felt like it. You know, these stories where you hear people have lifted cars off people who've been trapped and stuff. I suddenly understood it. I felt like I could go out there, and if my leg fell off, I wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
Unbelievable feeling. And what, now looking back, nobody had taught me how to control that, what that would feel like. So a big thing I do now is really trying to get that across to people. I like to share it because in that moment, I know now if I'd have done a little bit of box breathing or if I'd have just chilled out a little bit, I definitely wouldn't have gone out there and flown about everywhere.
Yep.
So after that, I really kind of set my sights and I was like, right, I want to get a medal. I want to get a medal. It was then 3 years until I got the chance again because of 2020.
Right, okay.
The competition got cancelled a couple of times. We were training on Zoom, all these kind of things. And we ended up going out to the competition. Half the team couldn't come out because they'd been within 2 meters of somebody. And we didn't know when we flew out to the Europeans if we were going to compete at all. They sent us out there. We did the training. Half the team came out. When we did the training, there was like 3 other injuries. So in the end, there was 8 of us that went out in the European final with a chance of getting a medal. Managed to hold it together, got the medal, and I stood on top of the podium, third. I know people watching always go, well, you're not that good. You didn't win. But we were not going to win. Our aim was, right, let's take the third medal. Creep up on them. That's where we want. That's our gold. That's our Olympics is if we can get that third place. And I stood there and I thought about my mum, really emotional moment, probably for about 60 seconds. And I realized suddenly, one of the top 3 moments of my life, I was so happy. I was so proud. Like, it was like my grandma's done this, all these things. And I realized it was all over as soon as I stepped off the podium. And a massive thing that I like to advocate for now and share is just how important you will think the journey is when you get to the destination. Now, I'm so aware that saying the journey is more important than the destination when you haven't actually got there yet is just the most cliche thing ever. And it always reminds me of Carol Dweck, becoming is better than being. Now, at the time, obviously didn't know who that was. But genuinely, if I was to tell everybody one thing, is that when you achieve that goal, in hindsight, your favourite bits are probably going to be the uncertainty and the person you've become in the pursuit of it.
So after you stepped off the podium, how did you manage the next 5-6 months?
I really don't want to compare it, but you read and you hear about kind of Olympians, because that is a completely different level, and that is astronomically different. Okay, these guys have devoted their whole life, I suppose, are having a way, but when they finish the Olympics, or I think they call it gold medal syndrome sometimes, they have achieved what they set out to do and they lose their identity. They don't know where to go. And I definitely recall feeling slightly like that.
Yeah.
And again, the viewers are probably thinking, oh, well, you could have been motivated to go and get second or first. And you absolutely could. But I think what it did to me was realize and really instill, wow, I need to really evaluate if I want to do all of these things again with the risks, with where it's got me, because it's not financially lucrative. If you mess yourself up and you're self-employed, as I always say now, I would be screwed. When I was even at uni, I was a little bit more like, oh, well, you know what I mean? I could kind of probably get by if I hurt myself. And I think what it did for me is actually be like, right, Joe, you need to look at what you want to do and what's the bigger picture here? What do you actually want to achieve if you know you could win and be the unhappiest person in the room?
Yeah. So Georgina, my partner, she got to England level gymnastics, and then she went to America, did 4 years at the NCAAs, so top standard. And when she finished her gymnastics phase, which was from the age of 4 to 20, maybe 22, big chapter of her life, big identity. I know when she finished and she stopped doing it, she's had this chapter of, got to kind of, I'm now a new person. I've got a new identity, and it's like learning that. And she's had to accept that she's never going to be the gymnast that she was, and that was all she knew for such a big part of her life. So I feel like anyone who's no matter what it is, sport, career, when you've devoted years of your life to one thing and then you stop it, you lose that identity. So it's how do you deal with that, and then how do you redirect your life to something new?
I would love to sit here and give you the answer, but I think I am still discovering that. I was very fortunate to have lots of different things going on alongside this, and I was coaching. I really found a love for actually seeing progression in somebody in some shape or form, which probably later led me on into actually coaching people through fitness. But still, as a gymnast, I love seeing somebody get better or improving, and seeing kind of, like being able to say, oh, well, look, you're way better than I was at your age. If you stick at this, you've got incredible potential. And it was kind of after that, we went into, okay, are you going to do it again? What are you going to do? And I was I wanted to do it, but there was something in the back of my mind kind of being like I said before, if you hurt yourself, maybe being a bit scared of that, not afraid to admit that. What are you going to do? Who's going to look after you? All these things alongside what I was doing. So I found a big love for obviously training. I was lifting weights from quite a young age. But when I say lifting weights, I was doing bench, shoulder press, destroying my shoulder and bicep curls. Yep. And then when I became like kind of 17, 18, I realized, I can actually, if I follow a plan, I can see what progression I've made. Yep. I can actually look better. I can feel better. So I kind of spent a little bit more time training like that rather than just being a gymnast. Because obviously I was almost in this catch-22 of the more muscle I built, the harder it was to do gymnastics, the heavier I was. It's a really strange place. So I managed to do that. And then we went into another cycle. And I didn't expect to, but I ended up getting picked for kind of a really good team within GB. You have a few different things. And I was definitely put in there for my ability as a team player, somebody to show up when it counts. I like to say that I am in no means perfect, but because of my life, my childhood, my experience in the competitions, if you put me in the trenches, I like to think that I dig my way out.
Yeah.
I think I was put in there because of that. My ability to hold a team together and step into that role. And also, something happens, you put me out there, you know I'm probably going to get the job done.
All right, legends, pause for a sec, because I have a game-changing brand I have to tell you about. The OnYa app is a complete merch solution from design to production to fulfillment. Forget having a gym full of merch or being out of pocket for bulk orders, which impacts cash flow. You don't have to lift a finger. OnYa handles all the fulfillment. Your members simply place their order online and they'll ship directly to them. Contact Dan from OnYa to get set up with your very own personalized merch store for your business today. Visit the website onyaapp.io for more details.
I always say what happened to me was the best thing that happened in my life. And as soon as I say my story, people are like, I'm so sorry to hear that. That must be awful. And I genuinely didn't really feel the impact of what that did or how that made me feel, act in certain situations until I was a lot older.
So do you think people saying that was a negative thing to you?
Saying,
I'm so sorry to hear what's happened. Did that have a negative impact or positive?
I think I definitely didn't overthink it in this situation because, again, when somebody says that, I'm not going to turn around and be like, oh, hang on, Susan. It was absolutely great. Do you know what I mean? I had a great childhood. But I really think after doing a lot of reflecting of what I want to do going forwards, what I can give back, I think one of the most important things is to actually share my journey of actually discovering that. So, for example, after I'm sure we're going to talk about the one and only Gladiators in a minute, which kind of comes on nicely from that journey into the end of my gymnastics career. I worked with an amazing charity called Kinship. And Kinship Care is somebody who essentially was my grandma, Christine. They're thrusted into this position. Maybe they've lost a child and then they're looking after a grandchild, a cousin, a relative, can be anybody, sibling. And I realized that sharing my story, the impact that could have on somebody listening, a child, a carer who's maybe gone through a really tough time with a child, I realized that was the most selfless thing I could do. And just being honest and open and saying, I haven't got it all figured out. I have days where my emotions get the better of me. When I was growing up, I used to get really built up within my emotions. And then I'd kind of exert myself in a way, maybe get angry or lots of little things would build up. And I definitely used my grief in childhood as I was dealing with that every single day. I definitely used that across different parts of my life, whether it was training, relationships, just who I was as a person. And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, oh, you could have handled that differently. You could have done better there. This is why you probably did that. A bit of a grief response. And that's not me being like, oh, every time I've not been the best person I could be, every time I've maybe not shown up and given my best representation of myself, who I genuinely believe I am, is because of what happened to me as a child. But I think other people can learn from that and they can maybe take some comfort in, okay, so bad things can happen to you, and it might be 10 years before you actually come to acknowledge that and realize that.
What were the key things that helped with the grief? Like, was it gymnastics a big factor, or did you keep gymnastics completely separate? As in, did you channel some of your emotions into gymnastics in a positive way?
I think sport really gave me something specific to focus on. I have had a few moments in my life, which, like I said, when I went out into the arena for the first time, I experienced a similar one on Gladiators, which is a little bit more interesting, where I had the thought of, I've been through so much, I can do anything. And that can be construed as a positive or a negative, because I've definitely used it to almost inflict the idea of, if something negative happens here, it's not going to be as bad as what I've experienced, which is probably quite a dangerous way to live your life. I mean, if you think, oh, yeah, something happened to me bad, I'm going to cross the road without looking, it's not going to end well. But I think the real key was, as I got older and I started looking a bit more into reflection, trying to understand myself a bit more, I understood, oh, I'm obviously not the only person to experience grief before.
Yeah.
And once I started doing that, people were telling me, this is like, you're dealing with this way because of what's happened to you and you don't even realize it. I am very stubborn sometimes as a person. And obviously when I'm coaching, when I'm working with clients, I am not like that. But I take things incredibly personally. And I don't always show that, because I feel like as a man, it's not always easy for us to be like, no, actually, do you know what I mean? You really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I was growing up, I realized if someone annoyed me, I might not speak to them ever again. And I'm like, wow, that is not a healthy way to approach life.
Yeah.
And only in retrospect do I understand, oh, well, maybe you felt, and definitely part of it is me kind of painting the narrative to that. Like somebody might have not even meant to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, but I'm just going to cut them off. And I do that. And I've realized I do that because my way of dealing with grief was completely shut that off. Don't even acknowledge it. The unhealthiest approach, but it's the one that kind of worked for me.
Yeah. To finish off, to round off gymnastics, no pun intended.
I thought you were gonna say to round off grief then.
No, sorry, gymnastics. What was like a big part or a big thing that gymnastics taught you, or something that you still use in life today from a gymnastics point of view?
That was an incredible pun, by the way. I feel like that was absolutely incredible. You've got that written down, haven't you?
I haven't.
Get round off in.
I generally haven't.
Gymnastics taught me so much about life. And at the time, I wish I could have seen even more the person I would have become at tackling challenges and struggles when I was in that moment. But the thing about gymnastics is you have to do something 99 times. And then on the 100th time, you get it slightly better. And then guess what you have to do? 99 more.
Yep.
And you fall flat on your face, hopefully not your head. You fall over again and again and again. And you have to get back up. And without just reeling off cliche quotes for the whole podcast, I have not found any other part of life where you just succeed at something straight away. And it's like we were talking before we started recording. When I started YouTube, when I started coaching, everything I do, I think, well, I didn't have any success in gymnastics until I was 17. I did it from when I was 5 to 12 years. Who am I to complain if I've not been successful in something, if I haven't put a lot of time into it?
Yeah. So resilience, consistency, and just be persistent. Keep going, pretty much. Okay, a quick break. Now, if you do functional fitness, high rocks, CrossFit, or some form of hybrid training, then you need to try WOD Fuel. WOD Fuel is a unique blend of carbohydrates, aminos, and electrolytes to keep you fueled for your daily workout of the day. It uses cluster dextrin, also known as cyclic dextrin, a unique carbohydrate source that digests quickly in the gut. No caffeine, no crash, just a reliable energy source that tastes delicious. Available in tubs or sachets from wodpowders.co.uk. All right, back to the episode. How are you now with grief and your childhood? Like, what stage have you got to? And would you say you've, I don't know, got to a point of grief where you're happy with or content with, or is it still, will it be ongoing?
I think that my childhood set me up to be in those moments of adversity, of struggles, and be able to navigate them okay. I think that whatever the next 5, 10, 15 years of my life bring, having had those moments will significantly be able to impact me in a better way when I face the next challenge or struggle. And the way I see it is, terrible stuff happens to everybody. Like, losing my mum isn't not normal. It's just that in my journey, nature ran its course the opposite way it's meant to happen. So what will probably happen, I mean, my amazing grandma, Christine, might outlive me. But what will probably happen is I'll have to go through that process at an age where I'll find it significantly harder. Which is why I try to just enjoy every single second, every single moment. I say to the older kids that I coach, the drives to a gymnastics competition, the moments. Over the last few years, I've been so fortunate enough to do some incredible things I never thought possible. But my favourite part of the week is spending some time with my grandma, spending some time with my mum. I call her my mum. And you can have every struggle or problem in the world. Oh, I need more business. I need more clients. I need more money. I need this, whatever. And I'll go home, sit with her, and her biggest worry is the fact that she wants to move a plant pot about 2 meters, but she can't do it. She's been thinking about it all week. And you're just grounded, absolutely grounded.
And actually, I think as you get older, you start to realize the small problems, the small things you worry about are actually the most important. And it's the small moments, a drive to a gymnastics competition, even moving the plant pot for your grandma, are actually the most enjoyable. And like, I feel like you've found that out very quickly in your life, which is great.
You're spot on. Genuinely, you've been able to kind of acknowledge exactly what I say. And I tell everybody, I feel like I've learnt the lessons of how important family is, how important it is to be respectful, look after them and do what you can earlier than everyone else realises them. When you lose your parent, you're meant to be, what, 40? Well, that's young, isn't it? 50, 60 maybe. I learnt that straight away. I avoided going into care, which could have meant different things for my life. I had a great upbringing, and it was just instilled into me every day that these aunties, great aunties, grandma bringing you up, these people around you, just how important that is. And I genuinely, it's really hard for people to understand this unless they've experienced something similar. I am genuinely thankful because I worry about how I'd have handled things, situations, or opportunities that have happened in my life if I hadn't have had those moments.
Deep.
Yeah, can we?
Oh. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it, and I love those conversations. But I'm gonna have to flip it up to Gladiators now.
Moving on.
Before I shed a tear. No, genuinely, like, I appreciate you being that open and honest. And I actually think that's probably a key thing now that, like, I'm probably, well, hopefully never going to be able to relate to those scenarios, but I feel like I can relate to you so much because you're so open and honest about it. So I feel like that will just pay dividends with any clients and other people in similar scenarios. So yeah, I appreciate that. All right, team, a quick pause because Series 4 of the WOD Pod is sponsored by Tenzing Energy. You know we're all about moving better, training smarter and feeling sharp, and that's exactly why Tenzing is our go-to. It's clean, plant-based energy inspired by the Himalayas. No artificial junk, no weird crash, just a smooth, natural lift. Whether you're hitting a WOD or just trying to survive your morning, crack open a can of Tenzing and feel the difference. Gladiators then, first of all, how did it come about? Did you have just a random idea? I mean, ex-gymnast, rugby, solid foundations for Gladiators. So, ideal candidate.
This is a pretty mad story. So, it'll be nice to revisit it in depth. So, as I said, I went into kind of my next cycle as a GB gymnast. So I got picked into that team. And probably about halfway through that, one of my now business partners, but somebody who I met when I moved to Newcastle, who is the most incredible human. He is like a father figure to me now. Kind of, I've had a couple of those in my life, my uncle, but he was one where in Newcastle, he inspires me still to this day, and we work together now.
How old are you now?
25.
Yeah, that's mad. So I feel like I'm speaking to someone 38 in terms of like life experience, not gymnastics aside, but like just to touch back on that before, like you're very mature and aware of your emotions, which at 25, I mean, I was nowhere near that. So yeah, credit.
But mate, you know, I don't want people watching this to think
they can't be.
Yeah, but also, I have done some incredible things in my life, and I've put myself through tough situations and managed them. But I have gaping holes of things that I am terrible at. Gaping holes. And again, I might have spoke quite well about my experience with grief, but that doesn't mean that I won't experience terrible days of not understanding why I feel a certain way. Genuinely, I might sound like I've got it all figured out, but I think it's a continuous journey.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Some people do say I sound quite mature, and then other people that know me are like, yeah, he's mature in that, but come on, he's just a big kid. Which I definitely am in certain things. So I got picked for that team. I realised that I was going to be a backup. That was my job. And something I preach is that is a really tough job, like being a sub or a reserve. So I knew I was going to be a reserve. And then I had this opportunity. And the first thing that he's called Roddy, the guy who was kind of like my father figure, still is. As soon as he saw me and we met, we knew Gladiators had been started to be remade. He said, you need to go on Gladiators. It's you. Exactly what you've said. Rugby, gymnastics, it's you. You need to do that. So I kind of thought, yeah, right, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Wasn't born when the original series was shown.
Yeah.
Started watching it, started understanding it, became a bit of a fan. So I applied as a gladiator in the first series. Didn't get picked. Clearly, I'm not very tall. I'm not incredibly physically imposing. To put myself down a little bit. Didn't happen. And the second time the series was coming around was when I'd been picked for this team. Now, I submitted an application for a gladiator and a contender because I was thinking, I think I could be a good gladiator. Now, I got an email and I just got back off the plane. I can't remember where I was, some holiday, a little trip. And I checked my spam folder because that's what all of us kind of weirdos do, isn't it? Check your spam folder when you come back from holiday, whatever. And there was an email saying, we'd love to speak to you. And it was like a Friday afternoon. And I was like, oh my word, have I missed this call? Have I missed this chance? Oh my word. And I had to wait until Monday. So I spent Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, just sitting looking at my phone thinking, have I just missed like the biggest opportunity ever? Had a call and they said, oh, we've got one more tryout and it's in London and it was in like 2 days. But we'd love you to come. And I was in Newcastle. I was like, I've got to do this. Do you ever think, and I heard...
At that stage, was it to be a gladiator or a contender? Or did you neither or both?
A contender.
Okay.
A contender. Do you ever think, and I heard somebody speak about this, an amazing presenter called Radzi. He said that he could deal with failure, I think, but not unanswered questions. And in that moment, and I try to imply it now, I think, if I don't go, or if I didn't go, I was going, there was no way, how would I live with myself? And then I got a call saying, we'd love you to be on the show. And that moment, I was at a petrol station. I just filled my car up. And I remember getting that call. And that was, again, one of the happiest moments of my life. And I thought, oh my word. And my mum was really worried, maybe about me getting hurt or whatever. And I was a little bit anxious as well, because you never quite know how you're going to come across in these things. And I sat with her and I said, look, Mum, if one person watches this, our story, sees you, hears about it, and they are positively impacted from what we do, from the show, whatever, we should do that. They deserve to do that. They deserve to see what you've done for me, blah, blah, blah. So, started training, didn't get long, and then essentially went into what was the filming of Gladiators in August 2024. Yeah, 2024, August 2024. And alongside that, I was still in Team GB. Their competition was after Gladiators. I spoke to the one person who'd done this before who I knew, Roddy Mackay.
Right, okay.
And what I didn't tell you is the guy that told me I needed to go on Gladiators actually was on Gladiators in 1993. Wow. He became kind of famous because Wolf kind of pulled his shorts off and he was hanging on Hang Tough in just his boxer shorts, which is brilliant, brilliant video. So he became like kind of more well-known than the person that won it. And he said, you may never get this opportunity again. There are hundreds of people involved in making this show that you're getting this chance to be a centre part of. You've got to make this decision. And I did it. And I didn't go to the training. And we were filming like this. It was the semi-finals of Gladiators. And now looking back, and you might say to yourself, like, that must be an easy decision. Like, okay, you've got the chance to go on television, share your story in front of millions of people in the semi-finals of what now is probably the most popular family television show in this country.
Sounds like an easy decision. However, you've spent years of your life training for a gymnastics competition. You spent a few months focused on Gladiators. So that must be a big factor as well when you weigh that up.
It really affected me mentally. Really affected me mentally. Because I really didn't want to feel like I was letting anyone down. And looking back now, that decision that I made that moment has changed the course of my life. And like I say, I genuinely, Gladiators is so unpredictable. I know we went off the tangent, but you could be the fittest athlete in the world, but if you roll your ankle and you can't run, you're out. If someone barges into you in a game of Powerball and you blow an ACL or something, you cannot control that and your journey can be finished, as you've seen time and time again on the show. So I almost had this thing of, my aim was to get on the show. I got on the show. My aim was to do a show. When I was doing the show, I was thinking, God, if I get to go through the paper first, like, how is that going to feel?
Yeah.
Like, what is that moment going to feel like?
How did it feel?
Incredible. Because I genuinely didn't expect it. and people are going to sit there and be like, oh, well, you won. Look how quick you are. Look how good you are. But even then, I've seen the best in the world at what they do, make mistakes. And I know that you have to have a level of confidence to be good at anything. But I am a big believer of that. You'll make a mistake, no matter who you are. I mean, look at Usain Bolt, that time when he kind of false started in like the World Championships or something. And the man's the fastest guy on the planet, the best, most successful athlete at what he does. He made a critical error. Everybody makes mistakes. So I was really concentrating on being present and in the moment. And then we ended up kind of doing it again and again, and in the final. And the final, I had the best day ever. And it might surprise people, but the reason why was because I knew the chances of me winning against the contender I was against was probably quite slim. He's called Mus. He's an incredible human. He's basically calisthenics background.
Yep.
He was probably about 20 kilograms lighter than me. And unless I had a head start, he was going to beat me around the eliminator, unless he made a mistake. Going into the final, the eliminator, the last moment, I hadn't thought about the head start all day. I genuinely mean that, because I thought if I come second on this show, I'm going to have the best damn time doing it. Best time. And I was staying grounded. And I knew there was people in the back, people watching, who wished they were in my position. And they weren't. So I was like, I'm having the best day. I'm going to enjoy this. And just before we did the eliminator, Roddy was there, my family were there, and he said, you've got a 6-second head start. You can win this. And two things went through my mind. I thought, oh my word, I could win. And then on kind of the other shoulder, like definitely on the shoulder, he said, or you're going to look even worse when you come second and you lose.
This podcast is sponsored by WOD Powders, who now sell their clear whey protein in both tubs and travel sachets. If you've tried those thick protein shakes after a workout, this is your new upgrade. The WOD Powders clear whey is light, refreshing, and causes no digestive issues. Ideal for after a WOD, perfect for on hot days training, and packed with the protein you need to recover. Order yours today with code TOM15 for a 15% discount from wodpowders.co.uk. All right, back to the pod. Going back to the final. So you had 6 seconds head starts. That's mean you were winning by 12 points?
Mm-hmm.
What events leading up to the eliminator did you excel at? Well, throughout the series, what were your favorite events?
It's a great question.
So you must have had ones that you just had and went, yeah, I've got this.
So what's really funny is I definitely doubt myself in my athletic ability. I was the first person to run Unleash, which is a chase game, kind of like a remake, difference of pursuit. I was the first person to play that. And all of my family, they tell me now, were sat there watching, saying, oh, he's got no chance. He's got no chance. I'm really fast over a short distance because in gymnastics, we've been running 20 meters.
Or you're sprinting into a tumble. So it's this acceleration of a run.
Yeah. And rugby, short distance, I'm good. And I can kind of bend corner a little bit, change direction a little bit. It's a really weird thing. So I did that. It was the first thing I did. I was so nervous. Imagine biggest moment of your life and you're getting chased for it and you don't know who's coming out after you. And then obviously I realised that I've got a ex-NFL England Sevens player, Apollo, coming after me, which makes it so much easier. Yeah. And we had a bit of a tumble on the stairs. So I fell over. The flag or tag came up over my neck and he missed it slightly. It was the luckiest moment of my life. And
you kept going. Yeah.
I got the flag and my family was shocked, whatever. And I couldn't believe it. I was the luckiest person in that moment, right? And as I did the other games, things like the wall really scared me. But I came to realise that I really enjoyed the games where I could see the gladiators. So I think that's, in being a gymnast, a lot of what I do is visual, a lot of visualisation. And I was thinking about how I was going to get up the wall. I was feeling how I was going to get up the wall before I did it. when I did the Eliminator. I ran the Eliminator loads in my head visually. It's because of how I learn things. When we were doing it, practicing, I was feeling everything, feeling the rope, feeling the net, feeling the travel, making mistakes. So I could feel it because I knew
the net. Sorry, I just want to say the net. That is the deciding factor between. I can just see some contenders. They jump on that net and they go, "Whoa, I wasn't expecting that. It's loose. They can't get their foot in. The feet have gone. They either jump too low. You can literally overtake a contender on the cargo net. That's the biggest decider. Every other obstacle seems to be pretty similar. Like when you watch a eliminator course and someone's say 6 seconds behind, excluding your final, as a generalized statement, everyone is quite even at everything except the cargo net.
You're very analytical, aren't you? You can really see things a bit differently. The eliminator is, if everything else goes well, is won or lost on the net, in my opinion.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because again, it was actually Radzi again. He's observed it, and again, he's got an incredible mind, and he actually referenced the eliminator as a series of transitions. And since he said that, I can't get it out of my head. It's exactly what it is. It's getting from one to another. It's unclipping and getting from, again, across. It's getting on and off the net. It's getting on and off. It's transitions.
Yeah.
And again, you say, that net, it's another thing. I thought you would I didn't think it was going to be as high as it was. And I got there and I looked up and I was thinking, wow. I mean, you don't want to fall off that. That is high.
Yeah. And you look at the time spent on every station or obstacle. It's roughly around 5 seconds per obstacle. The cargo net can be anywhere between 10 and 20 seconds. So when you look at the time spent, that's got to be the one. You get on that net and you've just got to go.
Yeah, and it's so easy to make a mistake. Obviously, there's good technique and stuff, and you've seen a lot of people do it now and stuff, but it's so easy to slightly miss a hand or
panic,
slip through.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really, really technical course.
Yeah.
And just within my threshold of, again, it's really funny, right? Because if I got to pick what games we did in the final, if you got to pick, I know me and Mus would have different approaches.
Yeah.
Mus would want the games where it lended itself to his athletic ability. So climbing, all of these things, right? The aerial games, hanging, swinging, right? He would want that. I would have been on the other side saying, put me in all the contact games. I essentially know I'd be risking it all, but I know that I could get beaten up, bruised, battered, but I'm so confident that I would have got around the course at the end. I would have gone for it as a different approach. And essentially we had obviously kind of no massive contact games. It was all more aerial games in the final. I think we had Unleash, The Wall, Duel, which I'm terrible at. That is the toughest game. Honestly, that is another level of hardness.
On the series, did you build a rivalry with any gladiators? Or any gladiators specifically?
I think they were probably surprised after the first show when I remember I had a really big tussle in the ring with Steel. And I mean, an athlete I'm sure you're incredibly aware of. He is the strongest guy, Zach George,
yeah.
I have ever
CrossFitter.
met.
He's a CrossFitter.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I thought you'd be very well aware of him. He is the strongest guy ever.
What was the tussle?
So the ring is you're trying to get in and touch a button.
Right, yeah.
And he is, I don't know how tall he is exactly, somewhere around 6'1" or 6 foot or something. But he is so dense, he is so strong, and slammed me around, threw me around like a baby, right? Picked me up, threw me away 2 meters, jumped and landed on me, right? And I remember after about the third or fourth tackle, I could tell that I'd earned a little bit of respect with him. You know, a kind of mutual respect where I think they were probably expecting me to just be a gymnast. However, if you looked at me, you'd be like, oh, he probably plays rugby. He's not a gymnast. And then after that, they were a little bit more aware that, okay, he loves the contact. He can roll. He likes getting hit and taken down. And I think different people approach it differently, right? Like they want people to come on and go, legend, I'm going to beat you. I'm the real legend, right? Because they win either way. If they beat legend, they can kind of hype it up. If they lose against legend, it's a storyline, right? And I'm not like that at all. So I wanted to earn their respect. So if I won a game, I was genuinely like, oh, I didn't expect to win it, but what a great guy. Pleasure to do it kind of thing, which might not always make the best telly, but it's who I am.
So the tussle with Steele, was it mutual, as in were you giving it back? And from his side, was it still friendly, or did you sense that he was getting tested enough to maybe lose his cool a bit?
He is an incredible person. And again, after kind of what he went through last year, I had an even bigger amount of respect for him. He's such a lovely guy. But obviously, you've got to remember, in this first instance, he had no idea who I was.
And he's just thrown you 2 meters across the ring.
But we've never interacted. It was the closest thing. And it's not like, I don't want it to be like, oh, well, like, I didn't try. It wasn't like that at all. It was the first couple bits of contact. We both knew. And I feel like we had this, obviously not spoken, but I felt like we built this sense of, he knew I was going to go for it. I knew he was a tough opponent, but we'd had no experience physically. And again, because I was thinking, right, well, I can probably beat this guy on the outside. And what usually happens in the ring, which I don't think was played this last series, is you score after you've been tackled, because anybody can tackle. But it's like a game line tackle, right? Yep. So, for example, is like, if you miss a tackle and you don't get them down, oh, that's terrible. But the kind of second worst tackle is like, if you get them and they go over and they make a bit of move, they make a bit of ground on you.
Yeah.
So the best tackle you can do is you put them flat on your back.
Yeah.
So you hit them, you stop them at the game line.
Driving back.
Driven back, driven back. That reminds me of that George North tackle where he's like carrying, I forgot who it was. But he was a bit different to all the other glads. So he was just going to put me backwards every single time. And I tried to go under it, lift me up, backwards. So it was really tough. And I think he said it was like the toughest game he'd had. But I don't know if he'd been nice. But genuinely, I mean, the craziest moment of the whole thing, and the other contenders, and when we did the tour, and Amanda always kind of made a little bit of fun of me for this. The craziest moment was getting to go against legend, right? Because for the since I was in my late teens, mid-teens, late teens, I've been consuming his content, right? And then suddenly you're like actually in the room with that person, doing something, doing the thing. Somebody who, without realizing, has helped you in so many ways, been a source of motivation and inspiration. And I was just kind of sat there, like looking at him, like, do you know what I mean? Like kind of kid at Christmas, kind of like, oh my word, kind of maybe like the girl at school, primary school, you didn't want to like go and speak to, you're too scared to speak to. I'm like, oh my God, it's madness.
It's crazy because you're a Team GB gymnast and he is a YouTuber that films himself eating his son's diet for a week or whatever. You know, it's like, I suppose it's your perception of him, but then you're going head to head. So suddenly all that's gone. I feel like once it's you versus him and it's completely level playing field. How did you do against him? He
is honestly, it really gave me an insight into how powerful social media is, because I realized, and I've been lucky enough to meet so many incredible people, but I realized that actually once I kind of met him, he was such a great person. I was like, wow, like the way I feel is because of all of his content and his work and obviously being a great person. Like if he'd have told me to do one, do you know what I mean? I would have been like, oh, right, it's a bit sad, isn't it? It's a powerful thing, social media. And the first game I played him on, or first event I played him on, was Hang Tough. Now, Hang Tough, I realised very early on, my aim was going to be to go nowhere near him. Because the last thing I wanted was to fall anywhere near him. Because that game, for example, people who don't know it, you're hanging. It's like one of the most, probably second most classic Gladiators game, right? Series of rings, you're hanging across, you've got to get to their side or get in the red zone. They're trying to knock you off. And I realised, before I went out, I was like, if I'm on the ring near him, he is not going, he's going to get me off, probably, right?
You should never win again. You should never be able to beat him because he's got a set in his house above his swimming pool. Like,
that slight advantage.
Yeah.
But I know he's got stronger grip strength than me, and it's physics, right?
Yeah.
If I hang there and I manage to hang on, I know he's going to come off with me. I'd do exactly the same thing. I'd wait. If he doesn't come off, I'd get on him, get on the ring, rip his fingers up. I'd be flat on him.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen when two people, we're probably quite a similar weight, when nearly 200 kilos of force comes down into mats at the same time, legs tangle, anything could happen. So my aim was like, right, I'm going to stay well away from him. So I went straight forwards and then right to the right, lost all momentum, didn't score any points.
But you stayed clear.
I just wanted to stay away from him.
Yeah.
And then later on, I think we played each other on the wall, and I managed to beat him on the wall.
Nice.
Watching it back, that was a really good moment. I really enjoyed that moment, right? But more because I got lucky, and I would say that I've said that to him as he had the chance to grab me. His eyes weren't looking up. He was looking at maybe his next handhold.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing, because if you think the wall, if you climb and then like someone's climbing after you, they kind of sometimes have to wait, because obviously, like if you're not in the right position, they can't just like climb over the top of you. Yeah. So that your foot might be on the next handhold, and they might be able to grab your foot. Literally, as I watched it back, his eyes are just level, and he's not seen the chance to grab me, and I've got out of it. So I was lucky. And then he got me back on the edge.
All right, legends, pause for a sec, because I have a game-changing brand I have to tell you about. The OnYa app is a complete merch solution, from design to production to fulfillment. If you're having a gym full of merch or being out of pocket for bulk orders, which impacts cash flow, you don't have to lift a finger. OnYa handles all the fulfillment. Your members simply place their order online and they'll ship directly to them. Contact Dan from OnYa to get set up with your very own personalised merch store for your business today. Visit the website onyaapp.io for more details. So, what series were you on?
Series 2.
Series 2. And I believe, did you face Nathan Bland in the semi-finals, or did you avoid him in the semi-finals?
Big Nath. I did not face Nathan Bland.
Did you avoid him?
I avoided him.
He went out in the semis. So you must have been in the other semi-final then.
So yeah, I was with a guy called Joe, Bearded Joe, and Joe, and then he was with the guy I was against, Muss. In the final.
Yep. So I know Nathan quite well through CrossFit, but I didn't know whether you'd faced him at any point leading up to that, but you wouldn't have done because you both got to semis. So you were both in different semi-finals. No, I think he was pretty gutted. He thought he was going to win that. He was so set on winning that. So good contender, great CrossFit athlete. So he had the good attributes, but like you said, it's almost like a bit of a Squid Game vibe where anyone in this quarterfinals could win that competition. It's then down to composure, injury-free, playing to your strengths. So, like Nathan, I mean, he's not got many weaknesses, but it's ultimately a race, and it's don't mess up. Keep you cool.
He initially, when I met him, and he won't mind me saying this, I was unsure of how to really respond to him. He was clearly very capable physically, mentally, very tough, very determined, and a great athlete. And he was clearly all of us are. We're all come from backgrounds of competing in some shape or form.
You're all going to be picked to be competitive.
Nobody wants to lose. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like nobody. I was enjoying the process because I knew something may happen. I might lose. I wasn't enjoying the process because I just didn't want to be like, oh well, I didn't want to win anyway. And as we kind of went through the process, he took big hits. He put on some great performances, and I kind of was still a little bit right. Like, I respect him. He's a great athlete and whatever. But me and him, I felt like we did things slightly differently. I preferred to be a little bit more composed. I preferred to be a little bit more. I love to hype myself up, but I've got my pre-performance routine. I want to do this. Whereas like he's a little bit more like doesn't stop 24/7, like on the go. And I was like, if he can maintain that, fair play, right? And we were lucky enough after that process. I saw him push himself to the absolute limits, and I had a massive amount of respect for him. And again, incredible athlete. He'll be way stronger than me, way more dedicated to what he does in his training than me. And after that process, we were lucky enough we never thought we would, but we had this incredible opportunity to go on the tour.
Okay, a quick break. Now, if you do functional fitness, high rocks, CrossFit, or some form of hybrid training, then you need to try WOD Fuel. WOD Fuel is a unique blend of carbohydrates, aminos, and electrolytes to keep you fueled for your daily workout of the day. It uses cluster dextrin, also known as cyclic dextrin, a unique carbohydrate source that digests quickly in the gut. No caffeine, no crash, just a reliable energy source that tastes delicious. Available in tubs or sachets from wodpowders.co.uk. All right, back to the episode. How many athletes go on the tour?
It was a mix of Series 1 and Series 2. Obviously, they've announced the next one this year, but we don't know who's doing that or if I'm going to be picked to do that and all these kind of things. But when we were going into that process, right, I was a little bit apprehensive because I was thinking like, nobody knew what the format was going to be like. Nobody knew whatever. We just shared this kind of mutual journey and we'd all seen how hard it was and whatever. And who I saw in him when we went away and did that was just somebody so mature. Like, I really warmed to him. We sat in the back of one of the arenas, playing Frank Sinatra, singing and chatting for about an hour and a half. Once everyone had gone, and he is genuinely such a lovely guy, dedicated to what he does. But sometimes, it takes time and experience to realize that about somebody. He might feel the same about me. He might be like, I didn't like him. Do you know what I mean? But
no, I think Nathan is a different person when he's in his competitive environment. So CrossFit comps, overconfident.
You have to be.
Loves to chat shit to people. He comes across like a bit of a bellend, but away from the comp floor, lovely person. And I'm saying it how it is because I think Nathan will probably agree with me. He'll say, yeah, he is a cocky shit on the comp floor.
I've not seen him in that environment. I've only seen him in my environment.
But I imagine on the Gladiators in the training rooms, he will be saying, "I'm winning this show." I know he will have been, and I know that outside of that, yeah, he's just a down to earth, nice lad. But he's got two different personalities, so at least you got to see both. Going back to the Gladiator tour, then. So, what was the experience? How long did it last? I mean, obviously you're doing competitions live rather than pre-recorded. So is that completely different?
Going into that, I had absolutely no expectation because I'd never experienced anything like that. Actual tour has never been done before. They used to do live shows, but they didn't tour around. They did in America, not here. And I think we all felt the same.
So are you touring with the Gladiators? So basically you go new venue, you all meet up. And is it live shows?
Yeah, they were live shows.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm not involved in the format of the show. Beg your pardon. But is that Tenzing? I'm getting a bit gassy now. But we didn't have an expectation because you've got to remember we came out of this incredible experience, all the stuff that came with it. And then we kind of, I considered myself so lucky because I was going to get a chance to go and do it again, which again was kind of like, wow, like there's so many people watching, thousands of people watching in the audience. I know that we're going to be there. I'm going to be wishing, I wish I could try that. So I really went into it thinking or wanting to be like, right, doesn't really matter what happens, but I need to almost, who do I want to be? Who do I want to showcase? What do I want to do? I was incredibly nervous for that, right? We did the training. The first show was the Liverpool M&S Bank Arena, formerly known as the Echo Arena, which is actually where I did one of my first competitions as a gymnast at the British Championships.
Wow, that's a nice full circle moment.
Oh, it was crazy. And I got to go out there and perform in front of, I don't know if it was like 7,000 or 8,000 people. Obviously, some of these arenas can hold way more people, but you can imagine they've got to have room for getting all the kit in and all that stuff.
So because you've done the show, that's aired, you're now going to the tour. Are you recognised with all the Gladiator fans more? Because obviously on the pre-recorded shows, they have a crowd there. But until you've won the show, you don't really have then your Gladiator contestant identity.
When you do the show and you film it, the audience, you can feel the buzz, right? And the audience get really invested in the contender they're watching. But obviously we did the tour kind of like 4 or 5 months after the show had aired and I'd just been like made the winner. So I massively underestimated the fact that people would know me, who I am. And I mean, I was getting recognised when we were out. My grandma still gets recognised now, like in our hometown, Scarborough. And I was getting recognised anyway when I was going out, which was a weird, just incredible thing. I mean, I was in Lidl the other week and the woman was stacking the shelves and she went, I haven't watched this series, but you were great last year on Gladiators. I'm like, what? I was like, what the hell? It's weird, but
that's cool.
Mate, it's crazy. And it was a hot spot because, again, not everybody, but because people forget things quickly, don't they? But you put all Gladiators fans, because nobody's going to go there if they're not a Gladiators fan.
Yep.
So the kids the parents might forget, but it was a hot spot. So it was like everywhere you went in that arena around, it was just incredible. It was the closest I'll ever experience or having experience to somebody. You felt like a rock star. Do you know? Like, that's the only way I can describe it. And I know it's not, but I felt so honoured and so lucky that, I mean, the whole thing, and like when you do anything, you get into the rhythm, you get used to it. And I was having this chat yesterday with another one of the contenders who actually I met up with, Joe. None of it is normal, but we've experienced that. So we have a little bit of a level of like, I hope I get to do that again.
Yep.
But I mean, I got put on a Saturday night show at the O2 Arena. It was like 12,000 people with obviously the other contenders and the Glads. And I walked out there and I looked up and I couldn't see the people at the top. It was that big.
Yeah.
It was one of the craziest, most overwhelming, most incredible moments. And I like to think that I enjoyed every single second, and I'm incredibly grateful for the people that I met and the opportunity that presented itself. But one of the Glads said, Apollo, and I'll never forget it, and he said, you've got to look around every once in a while. And I know it's like many people have said things like that, but he reminded me of it before he went. And I walked out and I was thinking, he's so right. Like, look at this. This is by far beyond any stretch of anyone's imagination. If I told myself I was doing this even a year ago, I'd be laughing at you. And every single moment, every decision had kind of led to there, because you genuinely never know what's going to happen.
So the big question with Gladiators is obviously you've won Series 2. Surely they will be doing a winners final. So that you'd like to hope the Gladiators are going to go, right, after 8 series, top 8, quarterfinals, let's find the winner of all your series winners. It has to happen. Surely. Have you got no insight?
Is that what's the question?
I'm trying to get some
Is that a question?
Inside information. Are you aware of there being a overall winners final or like series? Like you have Love Island All Stars. Is there going to be a Gladiators All Stars? The winners of the winners.
So, like with anything, I obviously have no insight into if that's something they've considered or will consider doing. Obviously, do you know what I mean? I'm not like involved in that process.
Well, let's make a reel out of that. Put it out in the internet. Get it in there.
Yeah.
Let's see if some producers see it.
But clearly, I mean, the show has grabbed the attention of such a vast majority of people. And again, like we're doing a tour currently where I go and talk about adversities. Adversity is my superpower. And I'll go through organizations, businesses, schools. And genuinely, out of every primary school, secondary school's a little bit different, but I would say 99% of every primary school kid watches Gladiators. And I'll say, who watches Gladiators when I'm talking? Everyone's hand goes up. There might be one kid who's do you know what I mean, not seen it. It's insane. And there's lots of different countries remaking it. They've just released or announced the American Gladiators remake, which looks incredible. So you like to think that this is going to be something, because of how positive it's been taken, that's going to last a long time. I don't work like that. I don't think that far in the future, and I won't hinge everything I do on that happening. What I'll do is, if the opportunity presents itself, I'll try to show up in the best light possible and give my best. Because again, I might have won Series 2. Whoever's won, well, we had Josh win Series 3. We had Finley win Series 1. But there's so many other people out there who could have won out of it. So on the day, anything could happen. It's really one of those things. I'd be incredibly grateful for another opportunity, but I would definitely be focusing on enjoying it.
Yep. All right, team, a quick pause because Series 4 of the WOD Pod is sponsored by Tenzing Energy. You know we're all about moving better, training smarter and feeling sharp, and that's exactly why Tenzing is our go-to. It's clean, plant-based energy inspired by the Himalayas. No artificial junk, no weird crash, just a smooth, natural lift. Whether you're hitting a WOD or just trying to survive your morning, crack open a can of Tenzing and feel the difference. To finish then, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
That is an incredibly hard question. I'm going to try and do my best to answer it in a way that I think it deserves. I think for me, are we talking when I am maybe struggling, experiencing
I'd say the question
challenge, teenage years kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because
probably when you're at your most challenged, or when you needed advice the most, what could you tell yourself?
Oh. I would say it's going to be okay. Anything is possible with hard work, and you won't necessarily know why or where you're going, but if you keep knocking on doors, the opportunities will present themselves. And even saying that, it's really tough because I could take that advice and maybe need to hear it now, a year ago, 2 years ago. But I think when you're young and so susceptible to what other people are doing, it's really easy, and I see it all the time, people fade away from what they want to do because of other people. I said, you go through your teenage years and people want to go hang out in parks and drink and do whatever, all kinds of skullduggerous activity. But not necessarily what is actually important to you in here. Enjoy your family. You only get one. Enjoy the journey. It's the most important part. But that is
it's the fun part.
It's just so hard, isn't it? Because if I sit here and be like, wow, look, you might be like, oh, well, I feel like the podcast isn't doing great. I want it to be bigger than it is. And I said, oh, look, mate, just enjoy the journey, because one day you're going to do a podcast with Joe Rogan or Chris Williamson. You'd go, well, yeah, no, I'm not. I think that's the thing. I think, to summarize, I think the challenges you face, the struggles, the adversities are going to make you into a better, stronger person for everything else you do throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that that's what you've taken away, not I won Gladiators and I was a Team GB gymnast. Like those two things, I kind of don't get the impression you think about that much. You actually think about what you've gained experience-wise, which I think is really important. Feeling good. Really enjoyed that.
I love that. It was a great chat.
Anything else you want to say? I mean, obviously, socials. Where can people find you? Instagram, YouTube.
Joe Fishburn across everything, pretty much. Again, I've got different channels, coaching, whatever, but Joe Fishburn.
So yeah, hopefully we'll see you on a Gladiators tour. The next one, maybe a Gladiators All Stars.
Hopefully, you should sign up. You should get. Have you got an application in?
I haven't. No. I knew you'd maybe say that. We'll see. That's
like I've put my application in.
Right,
this is why I'm here, isn't it? You're just like you're going, you're doing it, and you're just like, you know what, I'll get him on just before I do it, and then I can get all the inside information.
I'll win Gladiators Series 4, and I'll see you in the All Stars.
Wow, you can clip that.
Imagine. Right, really enjoyed that episode. Really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and a huge thank you for listening. Make sure you're following the pod on Instagram. The podcast is sponsored by WOD Powders. That's at WOD Powders on Instagram. Please show some support to the pod by either sharing this episode with a mate or buying some supplements from wodpowders.co.uk.